What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with another video. Join us now as we look at this week's edition of Dynamite, as well as the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know, including Ronda Rousey claims she'll never come back to WWE. She tells two WWE executives to go and F themselves. Wrestlers have given up on Vince McMahon. A former WWE superstar returning to the ring. Mauro Ranallo returning to wrestling, and much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Also check out our new videos on Wrestlelamia Shorts. As always, won't recap the show, but just look at the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. As always, we start off with the good as number 1, a brutal I Quit match. Adam Copeland's win last night over Christian Cage was a long time coming and accomplished everything you'd expect in a final boss fight. Edge overcame the patriarchy with some help from his friends, who will hopefully get a rub from being around the rated R superstar, and got every ounce of flesh he was owed from his former best friend. One of the things that worked especially well here was how Copeland outwitted Cage, who's been repeatedly booked as AEW's Resident Evil genius, nullifying Cage's minions. Another highlight was showing how Copeland isn't afraid to get down and dirty when an opponent threatens his livelihood. This was also the type of match that should end his show, not a throwaway bout like last week's Rio vs Willow Nightingale bout. It remains to be seen whether AEW learns from this week's show or it goes back to booking Dynamite like special editions of Rampage. AEW has some other work ahead of it, as it has to give Copeland some strong opponents as TNT champion. Perhaps more critical is Christian Cage's situation. AEW is likely tempted to reunite Adam Copeland and Christian, and at some point they should. However, it needs to be done organically and not seem rushed. AEW also has to capitalize on Cage's status as such a strong heel and get much more juice out of it as possible. Number 2, AEW clearly building up women's division. Is Mercedes Moné going to save AEW's women's division? Or some might say no one can save it, but there's one thing for certain, AEW is building off Moné's debut to try and jumpstart things. Booking 2 strong women's tag matches and adding intrigue about a Mercedes vs Willow Nightingale match was the most time AEW has spent on its women's division in months. More important, all the segments were good and showed promise. Number 3, string of solid promos. Last night's backstage and in-ring promos served as a reminder of how promos can be entertaining in themselves while also building storylines and getting wrestlers over. Dynamite didn't go overboard with promos, although Mercedes' opening monologue may have gone a bit long, and it's refreshing to hear wrestlers cut promos that mean something and get you pumped up for future matches. Number 4, Swerve Strickland vs Callis family should be good. And while we're hoping that Swerve Strickland captures the AEW World Heavyweight Championship soon, a feud with the Don Callis family could be a good way to solidify Swerve's babyface turn and main event status for when he eventually dethrones Joe. Number 5, solid show from start to finish. Dynamite was a solid show, and while AEW should have booked a show like this last week to capitalize on Mercedes Moné's debut, it is what it is. A string of solid matches, strong promos, and an epic main event made this a night to remember. And Thunder and Purrazzo make excellent team. Thunder Rosa and Deonna Purrazzo formed a highly effective team, another one of those instances where 2 wrestlers seem to click and make fans want to see more. Watching this tag match also helped make the case for a Women's Tag Team Championship, a title that could help AEW's female undercard improve in matches where single stars don't have to do as much work. But that was the good. What about the bad? It's number 1, Chris Jericho needs to wrap it up. Chris Jericho needs to wrap it up as he's moving in the ring with all the grace of a 3-legged elephant. Either that or it's time for Jericho to do what many wrestlers his age do, develop an in-ring style that plays to his strengths and covers his weaknesses. A more mat-based style that makes his strike seems better than watching him trying to keep up with fast opponents and perform aerial moves he's incapable of pulling off. There was nothing downright ugly, as this was one of the best Dynamites in a long time, and it's the type of show AEW needs to book every week if it wants to grow its audience and capitalize on WWE's popularity. What do you guys think of Dynamite this week? Let us know in the comments down below. Now let's move on to the news. Our first story looks at Ronda Rousey rocks the WWE. At top of today's news is a flurry of fighting words from Ronda Rousey directed towards WWE and former WWE boss Vince McMahon. Rousey's autobiography, Our Fight, will be released on 2nd April, and judging from some of the book's excerpts and comments made in a recent interview, Rousey is not holding back. First, she destroyed Vince McMahon. Rousey, who had 2 runs in WWE, the most recent ending at 2023 SummerSlam, shared a take on Vince McMahon. It's hard sometimes to know where the evil, unethical, slimeball character Vince McMahon played out for the camera ends and the actual questionably ethical, many times sued and multiple times accused of sexual misconduct Vince McMahon begins. That blurred line between character and reality is a recurring theme within the WWE Universe. Allegations of McMahon's misconduct date back to the 80s, but there's a case to be made that only recently have people taken notice of them. Rousey goes on to question McMahon's character, saying pay-per-views are held in major cities like New York, LA, and Philadelphia, as well as now twice a year in Saudi Arabia, a nation that restricts the rights of women in a way that I'm certain Vince McMahon wishes he could. Damn. Rowdy Ronda had some choice words for two people she interacted with in WWE, Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard. During an interview with Live Signing, Rousey discussed the beef between MMA fighters and how trash talking in MMA compares to trash talking in WWE. In MMA, I originally just started beef for publicity, but those other bitches, they did not get the memo, and so they became personal, and in WWE it's all fake. I love them, except for Bruce Pritchard and John Laurinaitis, they can go F themselves. That's real. Rousey isn't alone in her criticism of McMahon, and as we'll see later, McMahon defenders seem to be few and far between. Next up, Rousey claims that she'll never come back to WWE. Naturally, some people may wonder why Rousey is suddenly unloading on the WWE after she worked there for 2 campaigns. According to Rousey, she has no reason to keep her opinion to herself, and that her book will show how much of an absolute shit show it is at the WWE, because they can't hold a sword over my head and hold me hostage with my own career, and I don't need anything from them, and I don't intend on going back. So I can actually say everything that I think and feel, where everybody else that is still held captive by the organization cannot. What do you guys make of Rousey's comments? Has she completely burned a bridge with WWE? Let us know in the comments down below. Next up, wrestlers have given up on Vince McMahon. Now, are there any Vince McMahon defenders speaking out on his behalf? Well, things have been quiet ever since McMahon resigned from the WWE, and Dave Meltzer recently discussed how he thinks people are finished speaking up for Vince McMahon. People who were even in a situation where they'd been defending other people in the company, nobody bothers to try and defend Vince to me, Meltzer remarked. It's almost like they've thrown the towel in on him. It's like he's gone and we can't even try to defend him. At this point, anyone working at TKO knows better than to mention McMahon's name, let alone defend him. There are also people outside TKO who may feel Vince's reputation is so toxic that they don't want to mention him or deal with guilt by association. Some defenders may feel the court of public opinion has already reached a verdict, so why bother defending him? Next up, Dr. Britt Baker bashes fake beef. Dr. Britt Baker is making it clear there's no heat between her and Mercedes Moné. Baker responded to a tweet implying AEW's women's division are angry at Mercedes' big bucks deal. But Baker slammed a Facebook rumor saying, "This is a fake Facebook post, you dumb F." Excuse my language, trip. You can all post your apologies in the comments below. Next up, Nick Aldis recovering from surgery. The SmackDown GM Nick Aldis is letting the wrestling world know he's doing fine after some recent surgery. Aldis tweeted, "Yes, I got out of surgery for a ruptured bicep tendon, and yes, the sheets had it within minutes. God bless him. Must be a slow news day. Anyway, it was a freak accident. I'm on the mend and I will continue to fulfill my obligations on SmackDown." There's no word on what happened, but we send our well wishes to Nick for a speedy recovery. Next up, Mauro Ranallo returning to wrestling. Former WWE announcer Mauro Ranallo may be heading to Major League Wrestling to call the action. According to Fightful Select, MLW and Ranallo have been in talks about Ranallo appearing for the promotion. Nothing has been confirmed, but Ranallo, who provided commentary on SmackDown and NXT, would be a great addition to the company's broadcast team. Fightful noted that MLW owner Court Bauer and Mauro had worked together on a Strikeforce project in the past. MLW recently settled its lawsuit against the WWE, with the WWE reportedly agreeing to fork over $20 million. No word if this potential hire was in the works before the lawsuit was settled, or it's a sign that MLW is using the money to develop the company. And finally, a former WWE star returning to the ring. And last but not least, former WWE superstar Alicia Fox is getting ready to battle a familiar opponent, none other than Mickie James. Fans tuning into the Gabby AF podcast learned Fox, who now works as Vix Crow, will wrestle Mickie James at an upcoming StarCast event in Australia set to run from 11th to 14th April. Wrestling News noted that this is the first time Fox and James have battled each other one-on-one since October 2009. But there you have it, folks, our look at Dynamite as well as the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.